Welcome, fellow Tarnished, to Dark Fantasy Games, a brand new channel dedicated to Elden Ring and other dark fantasy games from the genre. But Elden Ring is going to feature heavily on this brand new channel, and just to give you a little bit of a backstory before we get into the video content, I just want to let you know that I have been a big fan of the Dark Souls series. I've played all of them. I've actually played all the From Software games, and I have to say they are one of my favourite games from pretty much anything that I've played over the years. Now, I have got a separate YouTube channel which I've been running for over 10 years. I've been uploading content to that regularly for a very long time. It has a decent amount of subscribers, and a while ago when Dark Souls had first released, well, I say Dark Souls, the Dark Souls series of games, I created an awful lot of guide videos that helped an awful lot of people who were finding the game quite difficult, and the difficulty is something we're going to be discussing about the Elden Ring once we get into the video. But I just want to kind of put out there that I have a long history of experience with the games, and this is the reason why I've decided to create a fresh, brand new channel just purely really for this game, because I just think the scope of the game, it's so epic. There's so much going on there, and there's going to be a lot of content on YouTube, obviously from lots of other creators. However, it's always good to have different people's perspective on things and how their mind works when they're playing the game. We're all different and people learn differently. I may be able to teach someone who is new to the game on how to do something in more simplistic terms than maybe someone else, and vice versa with other creators. So I would appreciate, if you are here watching this video right now, that you do give the channel a subscribe, which is free of course, and it really will help this brand new channel get content out there to the Elden Ring community. Some of you may be pros already at the game and you might not need it. Some of you are going to be brand new coming into the game for the first time, never have played any of the Dark Souls games. And I think this is where we can kind of get into the conversation really about what can we expect from Elden Ring. Now, there's an awful lot of content out there at the moment already from people who have been lucky enough to get the access to the network test gameplay that they've had a chance to play. And we've all seen the fantastic gameplay footage, which personally for me has got me extremely hyped. I am really looking forward to this game. I cannot wait to get my hands on this absolute beast of a game. But a lot of these people who have played the game have commented on the OP nature of some of the weapons and spells in the game, and said that it almost makes the game a little too easy. There's two ways of looking at this really. One, it could just be that From Software have actually buffed a lot of these spells and weapons purely for the people who are testing the game, just so they're not getting frustrated and getting stuck in a death loop, so to speak, which we've all been in those scenarios in some of the Dark Souls games before, where it takes you an awful lot of tries sometimes to be able to get through a certain part of the game or complete a certain boss. So it could be that for the reason of the network test, they've made a lot of the spells and weapons a little bit more overpowered just purely for that. The second reason that it could be that way is that it makes the game more accessible to people who may want to play this genre of game, but maybe have found Dark Souls and games similar to that a little bit too difficult, and it kind of puts people off. Now, I'm not saying that the game should be tailored more to the casual gamer base of players out there, because there is obviously a very niche section of the games industry genre for these Souls born games that are extremely difficult and brutal in their challenge, and that's how it should be, and it shouldn't necessarily be tailored to be easy for other people. But I do think giving people more variety and choice on how they can approach the game and how they want to play it is actually quite a good thing, because at the end of the day, difficulty and challenge is kind of based on how much difficulty and challenge we really want a game to be for us personally. It's a very personal thing. And for any of you who have watched any of the videos on Dark Souls from gamers who have done things like the no-hit runs and things like that, you know, where they play through the entire game without getting hit, they also then make the challenge harder once they've done that by actually not even leveling their characters, using the souls to upgrade their attributes, meaning that it's even harder. So for those of you who go into Elden Ring and find it a little bit too easy, then I think there is the opportunity for you to maybe tailor the game experience to yourself by setting yourself some challenges, like, you know, not upgrading your character's attributes or only using particular weapons and things like that. So there are going to be ways for you to be able to make the game more challenging. I think the stealthy elements are also going to be there to be able to make it a little bit easier for those people who maybe aren't as confident or as good with the head-on combat from, say, the Dark Souls games, but can do additional damage from the stealth attacks that you can do on the enemies in the game. For me personally, I've always loved the combat in the Dark Souls games, and looking at the Elden Ring footage that we've seen already, it just looks exactly what you would expect from Dark Souls. Well, it is Dark Souls, isn't it? It's pretty much an open world Dark Souls. And that's kind of really how we're looking at the game at this point. However, the fact that it's got this huge open world, multi-layered open world, I should say, there's not just the main kind of area of the lands between that you can explore. There's also kind of like a layer down below, hidden underneath. Sorry for if there's a spoiler there for anyone, but there is also this kind of hidden layer, almost a flip of the world, but down below, which is going to be another good area to explore, not to mention all the different dungeons and secret locations that the map is going to be hiding away for you to be able to discover. And I really do like the way they've crafted the open world to make it, again, not only a massive playground for people to explore and get lost in, but also how they've made it easy for you to be able to get around, you know, with the mount and the fact that you can fast travel between sites of grace. So for those of you who have not kind of really watched much content on this, sites of grace are very similar to what the bonfires used to be in the Dark Souls games. So you can fast travel between those once you've unlocked them. However, you will also have these statues that you can revive at if you've got one within an area when you die, meaning you haven't got to run a large distance or travel a large distance between, say, a site of grace that you may have respawned at if you've died. You can respawn at these statues. Little things like that that have been implemented into the game just really help bring that overall open world experience together, in my personal opinion. I just think that's a fantastic thing to have in there. But then you've got all the new spells that they've added into the game, and really, as I mentioned earlier, some people have said the magic is extremely OP. But I think these spells look extremely intriguing to me, and I'm really excited to try out different spell combinations, different builds, you know, finding which spells work best. You can enchant weapons with spells, so not only can you use spells as in terms of kind of casting spells, but you can also use weapons that have magical charges, so to speak, to be able to do additional damage. And then that's not to mention the summoning you've got as well, meaning you're able to summon spirits, and these are all things that you'll unlock as you progress through the game. A lot of the core elements from the previous Dark Souls games are still here in Elden Ring, such as co-op, PvP and invasions. You've also got the character customization as well. It's a lot more in-depth from what I've seen from the previous titles, meaning you're going to be able to create a character that looks more the way you want the character to look. Yes, you can probably still come up with some ghastly looking creations if you wish to, but there is the opportunity now, once you're actually in game, to be able to change the look of your character, which I also think is pretty cool, meaning you can tweak your character to perfection without having to spend too long at the start of the game crafting your masterpiece. Now, I did talk about the mount that you can ride in the game, and it does bring in some new opportunities for things like mounted combat, and you can use weapons from your mount as well, meaning you're going to be able to do additional damage to certain enemies. And I think it's going to be really cool to be able to experiment with what weapons work best from horseback and what enemies maybe take more damage while riding on horseback and using weapons. So that's going to be something cool to explore as well. Not only can your mount jump to quite high locations, making the game more vertical in terms of your overall exploration, but your character can actually jump and do jump attacks as well, much easier than how you could jump in previous Dark Souls games. Sometimes jumping across gaps in the Dark Souls games could sometimes be a little challenging and not always guaranteeing you to live through the experience. In Elden Ring, that is totally different. You've got the ability now to be able to jump a lot easier, and it also makes some attacks a lot more powerful too, depending on the types of weapons you're using. There's also a day and night cycle as well, which I think is quite cool, and this also changes the types of enemies that you can sometimes find roaming in the world as well. So there may be different types of enemies in certain locations in the daytime as to what you would find at night. So being able to go out and explore the world at different times of day, sometimes the same location will have different enemies at different times, so exploring those areas in the day and then also at night gives opportunities to be able to find new and challenging enemies with new rewards. Now, with the open world comes the opportunity to be able to go out and collect crafting materials and also hunt wildlife to be able to use in crafting. This is a mechanic that we've seen in a lot of open world games, but I really like how this has been implemented into Elden Ring. This is just a new layer of interest in the game for you to be able to explore areas for crafting materials, and it gives more depth to the overall exploration of the world. I really do like the direction that the game is taken, and I think really Dark Souls was very linear to a certain extent in terms of, you know, it was go through this path to get to this location, and you could see all this fantastic world design on the outskirts of the map, very gothic in its architecture in a lot of the maps, but you could never go there and explore. Well, Elden Ring totally changes that. You can now go out into the world, explore these areas and these locations, and find new enemies and bosses and new equipment and gear and spells and all sorts of different stuff, which I think is what's going to really set Elden Ring apart from the Dark Souls games themselves. You know, so very, very exciting things to get ready for, really, I think, with the release coming very, very soon. So just to summarise, what can we expect from the Elden Ring? Well, I can say that we can expect an amazing detailed open world with very interesting NPCs, lots of dialogue, lots of interesting stories that we're going to uncover going throughout the lands between, varied combat, lots of secrets and interesting places to explore, and more, of course. Now, I'm going to be covering an awful lot of the Elden Ring on this new channel, Dark Fantasy Games, of course, and there's going to be guides, build videos, secrets, tips and tricks that I've picked up as well as I've played through the game. So, for those of you who are interested in following the content that I'm going to be creating on the game, on the channel, then don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. And before I go, I just have to say, may you be blessed with a curseless journey.